Welcome to my jewellery studio. My name is Gael Emmett. I've been collaborating with the Novium Museum for a few years now, designing and creating collections of jewellery to support some of the collections that you see in the museum. Recently, I've been working on a project with the Novium to celebrate their 10th anniversary. On my initial visit to the museum for research, I took a lot of photographs of items that I found very interesting, and these are some of those items. But coming back to my studio and looking at these images, there were some really clear things to identify with. Two key things that came out for me were repeat shapes. I saw the spearhead and the shield as two very, very common shapes. Although the patina was very aged, you could actually really make something from that was very beautiful. I had particularly wanted to concentrate on developing surface patinas that reflected the original pieces. This is an example. I chose to work in copper because it does reflect the materials that you might have found in the original items. So I spent a lot of time looking at processes that would create the end look I wanted. So I used a lot of copper and processes of oxidization, which brings up this beautiful blackened effect. So each piece of jewellery will be entirely unique. When I'm working with the Novium, I find the whole collaborative process really freeing and refreshing, and I always look forward to the end outcomes. There's a lot of different tools that you use in the process, from initially cutting out the shapes that you want to create, which you might use something like a piercing saw like this, through to texturing processes. So you can use small plenishing hammers like this just to hand create a texture in a surface. This is a doming block, which you would use to create domed pieces of metal. So you would put the metal into this recess and then hit it very lightly with a hammer, and that will create the domed shape. Making this bangle for the Novium, I would use a tool like this, which is a mandrel. You put the piece of metal over the mandrel and you use a leather hammer to actually hammer it and shape it around. In the pieces for the Mystery Warrior exhibition, I used a process of embossing patina into the surface of the metal. This is a rolling mill, which you use to actually emboss a pattern like this, and you roll the embossing plate and the piece of metal through the mill, and that will create the final embossed piece of silver. The development process can take quite a long time when you're working on a piece. Once you've got your designs developed, you then try to work on a production style process. So you may make 3 or 4 of the same item at the same time in order to keep production time down. So the finished pieces that I've designed are to be sold in the museum shop. There's a selection of rings, pendants, earrings, and I've also designed some what I call hero pieces, which are key pieces where there's no limit on design or ideas, and these really lead out the rest of the collection. Caring for the jewellery is easy. I provide care instructions and packaging for all of my jewellery. You should always treat it carefully and not expose anything to harsh chemicals or anything abrasive, but treat it as if you love it.